I wake up every minute with the fever dreams. I put the mind to a limit where it needs to be. I work blind, got vision I don't need to see. I'm picking mind over matter, I believe in me. I need to find more hours in the day to breathe. Need to find more power in the way I be. And when my mind turns out with the painful scenes, I need to scream out loud, I can't stop me. I wanna be the greatest like Rocky. You know I leave them all hating like a hobby. I'm out here making moves like a lobby. And if you ain't with me, it's you lost, see. I got my mind on the facts, I'm a python, grab what I like real fast. Choke until I have everything I attack, everything that I lack, everything that I want, and I see, matter of fact.
I'm my own worst enemy. Only if I let it be. I can control anything if I can just think carefully. I control my destiny. Deep up in my mind I manifest it. Every morning I wake up obsessed
Hello everybody, welcome back. So picking up where we left off from the last video on the truck, I want to show you guys what I've been doing behind the camera. Got a little bit further, getting it ready for paint. It's really close to getting ready for paint, so I'm going to show you what I've been working on. So last video we had the doors off of it, you know, was going around making sure everything was nice and, you know, clean, as well as make sure all the scratches and everything were all sanded down, ready for sealer and ready for paint, get this thing back to blue. What I've been doing is I went around and pre-cleaned everything twice. You can never, that's one of the things about painting, is you can never clean things enough. The more you clean them, the better the end result you're gonna be when you start spraying paint. You won't have any paint reactions. The cleaner the better, especially when doing these big jobs like this, because there's going to be a lot of airflow moving, there's going to be a lot of dirt stirring up. So the cleaner you get your area as well as what you're painting, the better in the long run. So I've been busy cleaning everything. As you can tell, the truck is really clean, but cleaned it twice. And what I mean by that is I use spray away glass cleaner. A lot of guys use this. Now what I do is I blow off everything that I've sanded as good as I can, and I'll go back over this and entirely soak the panel that I'm cleaning, and then I'll just wipe it off until it's dry. This stuff will get a lot of handprints off. It doesn't streak like other glass cleaners. This is the glass cleaner you want, the spray away glass cleaner. So I cleaned it twice with this. The wife helped me hang the doors, cleaned them again after we hung them to get all the fingerprints and everything off of it. And then I went around and cleaned every little edge, as far as back behind here, the bed, everywhere behind the glass, because you want the tape to stick for what the air pressure you're gonna be putting out. You gotta think, we're spraying at a pretty high air pressure because we're doing all this all over. So you want the tape to stick as good as possible for as long as possible. So I went around, cleaned everything. What I mean by that is you can tell how it's pretty much stuck under here, but here it didn't stick too well. Well, this is an older truck, so underneath this bed there's a lot of debris, a lot of cracked rust, surface rust areas, so it's really hard for the tape to stick to those areas. So the better you clean them, the better, you know, your tape's gonna stick. So I'm gonna go around, fix those areas before we actually start spraying. But before we start spraying, I'm gonna fully wax and grease everything. I mean, I'm gonna fully clean it all. And what that does is get all the impurities, all the greases that fingerprints create, oils, anything that's left behind. This is what I call the final clean, is when I wax and grease it. And once I do that, it's ready to get tacked off and it's ready to get sprayed. So I'll just kind of go around and show you everything. And one of the fenders, like I said, this is pretty much going to be an all over as far as putting the base coat on, because there's a lot of areas that I got to cover, especially the bed. So I'm planning on just pretty much painting the whole thing all over again, door jambs and all. Everything is gutted. The doors are completely gutted, everything. There's no glass or anything in it, so I can go ahead and spray all the area without any tape lines, anything that's going to get oversprayed doesn't need to be on there, things like that. I've got the bed lifted off, pushed back so I can get behind there to make sure all the collar does get on there evenly, everything matches good. And the reason why I do it like this rather than have the doors off of it on a stand like I got the fenders is because I need everything lined up right now, because once I go and get this thing done and it's all blue again is the next step. And that's the step that is the fun part with laying the graphics out, figuring out where they're going to go. So when you do that, you need everything to line up. And when I paint it blue, I don't want to have to go back and put the bolts on because it's going to tear the paint. So if I have everything already ready to spray, I can get it sprayed, let it sit for 24 hours is what I usually let it sit for. Then I come back in when I know what graphics I'm going to do on this. Then I can start putting tape down. You know, I don't have to worry about lining panels up or anything like that. The only thing I'm going to have to worry about is lining the fenders up on the truck, and that's the least of my worries. So I don't have to worry too much about lining the doors or anything up. But I will shove the bed back once I get this thing done, like I said, because it is going to have to be lined up. Right now it's not, kind of sitting kind of funky, but this is just to get the base coat on it and get it all blue again so we can go to that next step. So another thing I've been working on is the hood. I've got the graphics on the hood pretty much taped up. I got to finish it because what we're doing is we're going to be blending back into this. This is not really a factory color. It is, but it isn't. If you ever painted this before, it didn't match the cowl. The cowl didn't match the other parts of the truck. The fenders really didn't match anything. So I'm gonna, when I go and spray the fenders and go spray the truck, I'm gonna blend this paint back into it. That way everything matches on the truck 100%. You don't want those mismatched colored panels or anything like that, because that's just you're gonna notice it. So get everything sprayed, get it all base coated, make sure it's all the same color before you go on to the next step. So first things first though, I'm gonna put you guys on a tripod. I need to get the SRT moved. I've been working a little bit on that as well. I'll show you guys what I've been doing. I added these carbon fiber A-pillars. Makes it look really, really nice. The tripod over here for all the 3 gauges. I blew a fuse in it, so I gotta replace a fuse. That's why that panel's off. And also, I added this hard pipe coolant. Makes it look really, really nice rather than the black hose. So that's the 2 things I've done. So I'm gonna get this thing out of here, and then I get cleaning and get everything else ready for this truck. Put this over here. So we got put you guys on the tripod. I'm gonna get to getting everything ready, and don't have really a lot of time tonight, but my goal is tonight is to get this thing all back to blue. So I'm gonna put you guys on the tripod and we're gonna get to working. All right, another thing I'm going to touch base on, when I start cleaning these panels and getting them ready for pre-clean as well as wax and grease, the final clean, I use these torque towels, the blue. There's really no lint to them. That's why I use them, and it seems to wipe across the panels really well. Some towels, like the Shop Towel brand, it has a lot of lint to it, and when you go to tack it off, you can tell because it's not as smooth. You can actually feel it when you're tacking it off. So these towels are the ones that I always use. I just have experience with them. Really great towels, so I buy them in bulk, but I use these only for cleaning the panels or whatever you're going to paint before you paint them. It does really, really well at soaking it up, smear it across the panel, making sure everything's nice and evenly dry as well as clean. So that's a big thing when cleaning these panels. You don't, like I said before, you don't want any streaking, especially if you're going to be cleaning it with glass cleaner, because once you put paint on that, if it's streaked in any form with dirt or a handprint or fingerprint or something else, oils, you're going to see it come through that base coat. No matter if it's sealed or not, you're going to see that line in that panel or those streaks in that panel come through that base coat. So it's really important to make sure you clean this stuff evenly, make sure it's nice and dry before you actually apply paint. Obviously, before you apply paint, you're going to be tacking it off. But I want to start to cleaning this stuff with wax and grease. I want to charge the GoPro while I'm doing that. I'm going to get the compressor started, make sure all the air is built up, and then we get to actually tacking this thing off, closing these rails up, making sure this area is nice and clean. First time using this in this area with this new setup I have, so we'll find out how well it works. I'm sure it's going to be fine, but it's going to be interesting. So I'm going to give you guys a charge and I'll come right back. So I'm going to give you guys a little rundown on wax and greasing, what you should do, what you shouldn't do to get this ready for paint. So this is a pretty easy job right here to get clean, just because it's already been painted, it's already had fresh paint, it's already been sanded, it's already been pre-cleaned twice. So it's ready for that final clean with the wax and grease remover. So depending on what you use, some of these do have like a fine spray, some of them have like a really heavy mist to it, some of them have like a straight, just a P-line spray. This one's got just that straight nozzle spray. So what you want to do is, you want to get your rag, kind of go down the area, you want to make sure it's fully covered, and you're just going to wipe it. Now with this being already really clean, it's not going to take much effort. If you had, dirt or anything still on the panel, when you start wiping it down, you're going to start seeing streaks, things like that. Now with wax and grease remover, a lot of guys will tell you, you're going to need a second rag, go back there and wipe it. Me personally, I do that sometimes, just depends on what I'm working on and how dirty it is. This one I'm not. I'm just going to keep wiping until I start to see it start to get that dry and it starts going flat, and make sure all the wax and grease is totally wiped off of it. And you want to make sure you wrap around your edges really good. You want to get everything clean, because when you start spraying that paint, it's going to start going everywhere. Do the same thing this side. There's really no sort of motion you should be doing it in. It's just you're wiping down the panel, getting all the waxes and all the fingerprints off of it, anything like that that may cause a reaction or that's still up on the panel from sanding it, or any sludge or anything like that. So, it's starting to take that dry effect, so it's pretty much done, wiped off, clean as you can get it. And then it'll start drying. This panel we're not going to seal, it's just going to really just get base coat blown on the edges of it and be done with it. And then ready for, you know, the next clear when we go around and clear everything. But before you do any of that, you know, before you even start spraying your paint, you want to make sure you go through your tape, make sure all the tape is laid down right. Make sure that it's where it should be. That way when you spray, if it does get overspray in those areas, that you're not going to actually see it or anything like that. So you want to make sure everything is nice secured down, all the tape's all down. And we'll get to this panel, like I said, after I get done sealing that in there. I'll kind of show you guys where I'm at right now. Show you guys how clean things should get. It is pretty dark on this side because I don't have any of the lights up yet. I did order some lights for this wall. I'm hoping to wrap them around all the way around here. That way everything is lit up in here nice and bright. So this is how clean everything should be. It should look spotless before you start spraying your paint. You know, you want to get all the nooks and crannies, all the crevices, anything like that. Get it all clean, make sure it's ready for that sealer or that paint. Now, we're going to go on, we're going to go and mix some sealer up. We're going to go with like not like a gray, light gray like this. It's going to be a little bit darker, but it's not going to be totally dark gray either. It's going to be like in between a dark and a mid, just because that's what this color calls for. It does take a little few coats to cover, so it calls for that darker tone of gray as a sealer. That way you can get it done in less than 2 or 3 coats. So we're going to go ahead and mix some sealer up. done spraying sealer. I sealed everything with my Awada. This is actually just a water-based gun that I use for sealer only. I do that because it sprays sealer really well. Everything was sprayed with this. Came out really, really good. There's a couple spots I'm gonna go back in. I'm gonna let it fully dry and tack off. I'm gonna go back in and block it and get rid of those spots, and then we'll move on to the base coat. That's what I like about this House of Color stuff. It's not only is it primer, but when you reduce it, it turns into sealer. So the flash times on it are really, really good if you're working in the right temperatures, and you can actually go in there and block it down if you have like a piece of dirt or something, or maybe like a little sag you put in it. Anything like that, you can actually go back in later and block it down before you add your base coat, and everything it goes so smoothly. So we're gonna let this flash off for probably about 30-40 minutes. It's a little bit colder out today. It's like 40 some degrees, maybe 45. It's about 60, 64 in here. So we're gonna let it sit a little bit longer, come back in, block it down, tack it off again, and get some color on this thing. All right, so we got some base coat in the gun. Going to get spraying this. Went around already, fixed all the sealer spots I didn't like. Some things had broken through. Sealer didn't like it, so I'm back down, sanding everything back down. Retacked it all off. Now we're ready for the base coat. I'm going to be using my solder on this one. We got the hood in here, so we're going to be blending the hood as well. But I'm going to do 2 coats on every spot that has sealer, and then probably 1.5 coats, or maybe 2 coats again on the whole entire truck. Alright, so we got a total of 3 coats. 2 on the spots, on the sealer spots, and then 1 full coat on the whole entire truck. I think it needs probably 1 more coat to make it actually final, which is fine. I can go in there and mix some more paint up, get another coat on there, let it dry for about 24 hours. Is what I usually take, especially if I want to tape up on everything. So I'll let it dry for that long, and then we'll go into the next video. Everything laid out really good, so shouldn't be any errors, any problems, going straight from the paint to the graphics. So just gotta let it dry now. Until then, I'll see you guys later. So we did it, guys. Truck is fully all blue again. Took 4 coats of base. This color is pretty transparent if you don't get the sealer right. I mean, obviously you do a darker sealer, but it is a very transparent base, so I took 4 coats. But nonetheless, got it back all blue. I already went around and I put the bed back where it needs to be. I put a couple bolts in it, make sure it's all lined up right. Same way with the doors, the latches, the strikers in there. Same way with the fenders. Fenders are all bolted on where they need to be. The only thing that's not on there is a cowl on the hood and the tailgate. I'll get the tailgate on there once I start laying out the graphics, as those will need to be on there. That needs to be on there as well to make sure the truck is fully put together and make sure everything lines back up. Because when you go apply the graphics and you take this all black apart to clear it after you're finished and you go put it back together, you want everything to line up perfectly again. That's why you have to rebuild it. So you're initially doing it twice, sometimes maybe 3 times, depending on the job, and if you're doing a full color change or not, you'd have to actually take everything fully apart. But once we go back and clear, I'm gonna fully take the bed off. I'm gonna try to clear everything as much as possible, the back of the cab, everything, make sure it's got all fresh clear on it, because I want everything to match, and I want everybody to look at this thing and not tell it was painted. So I'm gonna fully blow it back apart once the graphics are on there and everything's lined out right. But after this video, you guys probably won't see much, just because I don't want, I want him to be happy with it, and I want him to understand that I'm not gonna be showing anybody, like I said in the first video of this series, I'm not gonna be showing anybody online what I'm doing to it. I'm gonna let him do that, make the decision, you know, when he wants people to see it, but it probably won't be till the first show, so it's gonna be a few months out. I mean, I still got a couple months left to go on this thing, probably a good solid month of working on it. And I just say that because I've got a lot of stuff to do. I got to go inside the jams. I got to make sure you go behind the bed in the cab, inside the fenders. So it's going to be really tedious from here on out. So the next video I'm going to show you guys is the design, how I'm going to create it, you know, a step-by-step procedure of what I'm going to do to it. So until then, I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.